find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Welcome into the Gibson Fantasy Football Podcast. The inches we needed. And those inches came in the form of kickers this week. As you can see, I'm riding solo today, which, my faithful co-host who had become the go-to, the one and only Inaki, he's reeling. He's still in mourning after a disappointing loss and a heartbreaker there on Monday night. Really put him into a full swing for the Christmas holidays, and so we may never see him again. Turns out our matchup was actually a survivor matchup, and the loser is now banished from the face of the earth. So, R.I.P. Inaki, we'll miss you. You had a hell of a year; it was a good time, and we'll see you around. In all seriousness, he got a lucky chance to go to the World Juniors and watch Canada play Finland tonight. So. Go Canada, go Inaki. We'll see you next week, and we'll be talking about our matchup and yours this week. All right. So while I may have spoiled my celebration and my excitement, we still have lots to cover here. We'll go kind of least important to most important in terms of what happened, and then in terms of what's happening this week, because we got one more week of fantasy football and 2 more weeks of actual football. Second of which started yesterday. So we'll come in. I'm coming to you here on Boxing Day, Thursday, December 26th. But let's jump in. So while it helps determine draft order and a little bit of pride at the end of the year, but he likes to keep winning. Fifth place matchup, not the most important thing. So Gregor and Aaron squared off. It finished being pretty close. Baker almost made a comeback there for Gregor in the end. But ultimately, Aaron gets the better of him. 98.24, 89.12. So, about 10 points, just under. Highlights from the matchup. Gregor is unfathomably loyal to the 49ers defense. And so he said, hey, one more time. And you know what they did? They said, we'll do what we always do. We'll lose you a point. And so for the third time in like 5 weeks, they lost him a point. This time only one because, it had been 4-2 the previous 2 times. But nevertheless, that fails him and could be the difference in the matchup. But like we said, not a huge deal. On the plus side, Baker did his thing, 303 passing yards, a couple of tutties, 42 rushing, 23 points. And Brian Thomas Jr., who's an absolute menace, went 9 for 132 and 1, having a hell of a rookie season. That guy is on fire. On the other side, Aaron matched him from quarterback performance. Sam Darnold threw 246 yards, 3 tutties, ran for 11 yards. And then he had just, Tank Dell, who suffered a brutal injury. He's going to be done for this year and probably going to miss a lot of next year, sadly. So, that one's tough. But had a nice day before he got hurt. Brock Bowers, 11 for 99. My goodness, that guy's may already be the best tight end for fantasy, and he's a rookie. So, on a bad team with no quarterback. So, sky's the limit for that guy. So, in terms of draft order, what that does then is that means, as we already knew, Jay will pick first, Brody will pick second, Don will pick third, Ryan will pick fourth. And now Kreger will get the 5 pick, and Aaron will get the 6 pick. So we've got 6 out of 10 determined with 4 more to lock in here. Now let's move over to the consolation bracket. We had 2 matchups to determine who would play for the Blue Balls trophy. The first one was an absolute banger with a shootout between Ryan and Jay, who finished with 2 of the highest scores. Was it the first and third highest score on the week? So, jeepers. Talk about two players that do not want that loser trophy coming to their house to have to display all year. And well, as you'll see as a theme, kicker was the comeback player of the week here for Ryan Aubrey with 350 plus yarders, 140 something yarder, and two PATs, 21 points. But that wasn't all. He did lean on his running backs. I mean, jeepers, 30 from Chuba, 26 from Cook, 20 from Henry. Just too much to overcome. 25 from Goff. He did everything he could to just hammer him. And that was despite getting about 40 points from Jonathan Taylor for Jay and 25 from his defense, who had two pick sixes. So, and his kicker was no slouch either with 15 points. So, I mean, cheapers, man. Just absolute banger. 160 points scored by Ryan, second or third, depends exactly how many Anak he had, but second or third highest score of the year. And Jay just under 150. And for the second time in like what 4 or 5 weeks, 4 weeks, scores over 140 points and loses. So just craziness there. Ryan avoids the blue balls. Jay and his power team will go into the blue balls finals. And you may be wondering, well, who's Jay going to play? Let's find out. So Don and Brody squared off. This was a lot less fireworks, that's for sure. Not nearly as much scoring, but part of that was unfortunately for Don, she suffered a big injury with Jalen Hurts. So he goes down with only 4.5 points. That really craters her day. Really tough to come back from that. She did get a pretty good performance from the Bengals D, who had 5 sacks and 2 picks against the terrible Cleveland Browns, who are now led by DTR. And she also got a 20 spot from JSN, who went 8 for 95 and one. Unfortunately, just too many disappointments. Accidentally left Quentin Johnson in on Thursday. He put up 3 points. 3.9 from Cooper Cup. 7 from White, 7.5 from White, and 7 from Pollard. But it's just couldn't get enough out of it. I mean, DJ Moore in there for Quentin Johnson would have gave her 7 points, but she had 86.5. Brody had 104 behind Bo Nix, Amon Ra, CD Lamb, and Josh Jacobs. Jerry McLaurin did his thing too. So just too much consistency from his team and no injuries, right? So, I mean, that makes a difference. So that takes us to the coming week with the Blue Balls Championship. So now that we know who's left and who's wedded there, let's take a look. So that means this week we're going to get Jay versus Don. This is obviously a multi-time rematch. They have a 1-1 head-to-head. Jay got the better of her early in the year with 110.26 to 66.24 in week 3. But more recently, Don pulled out the victory of 97.16 to 70.82. Now, it's hard to imagine Jay's team only scoring 70 points after he's been on an absolute tear. Speaking of which, so since week 10, including that game that he lost to Don, he's had scores of about 102, 106, 71, so she caught him in the letdown week, 124, 148, and 150. So he's averaging 117 points per game, which if you put that through the regular season would have been the third most. So he's been a stellar performer. He's definitely got the edge, but Dawn finds a way to get him. She's got a history of knocking him off, and we did have some games yesterday, and he did have a player. So he had Rashad Bateman, who finished with 1 catch for 12 yards. So that helps Dawn. Big story here, which is going to be a story in my matchup this league as well, is Jalen Hurts is still in the concussion protocol. So she might be on the hunt for a new quarterback, which is a scary proposition, but we'll see about that. See where that goes. Currently, she's got McMillan, JSN, and Cooper Cup at wideout. Rashad White and Tony Pollard back in there for running back. Laporta at tight end, and then the Chargers kicker with the Seattle defense against the Bears tonight. Jay still got Atlanta. We'll see if he flops from that against Washington. I suspect he will. He's got JT, Brees Hall, and Ramondre. Ramondre not doing so well these days. And then he tried to swap out Marvin Harrison Jr. for Bateman, which didn't work. But of course, he's got Mike Evans and Joe Burrow. So It could be a close one, honestly, especially if Hurts plays. But if he doesn't, it's going to come down to who can Dawn get in there at quarterback because she's going to need somebody. So that'll be fun. Both are former Blue Balls champions, sadly. So that means that that trophy might stay in Ontario and just go from our man Evan, who left the league, to our new fellow Jay there for another time, or it may be traveling across Canada over here to the island and displayed in my house, sadly, with Don repping that. Now, let's get into the main event, the semifinals. So, speaking of bangers, Justin and Cash went at it, and it was a big one. 157 points from Justin, second highest score on the week. So he put up a ton of points there. Cash had a nice week too with 135. Started out pretty good. Lamar put up 21. Had a good go there. Andrews with 11. Tucker with 12. Like it was looking pretty good from that perspective. I thought he might actually be the favorite at that point, but it was not to be. The Eagles had themselves a huge day against Washington, and Washington had a huge day against the Eagles, not to mention his usual suspects. So if you go kind of position by position here and see what was the breakdown, Lamar put up almost 22 points. It didn't matter. Jaden Daniels had 36 with 5 touchdowns through the air and 81 rushing yards. Tight end, 11 points from Andrews, pretty good, 11.8. But Schultz actually had the better game with, 5 for 45 and 1. So he got a slight edge there as well. They both had 3 wideouts. So DK Sutton and Adams went for 37. Chase Ridley and Smith went for 43. So again, Justin with the edge there. And this was the only spot that he made hay on him, was 45 points between Gibbs and Ford. Ford had a crazy long touchdown run to start the game, and that really set things up. And then Brown and Barkley with 39. So, I mean, still very good. Barkley had 27 points on his own. Absolute huge week there. And then defense wise, 19 points from Jake the Snake Elliott as the kicker for Justin. Tucker with 12, and then 8 for Dallas D, 7 for Philly. So pretty close. So, I mean, Jaden Daniels, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, it was the usual suspects, plus Dalton Schultz at tight end, kind of peeking his way in. So, big win for Justin, first year in the league. Takes down the battle of PEI versus Ontario in semifinal number 1. And so that leads us to the next one. Showstopper of the week. It was fun and it was stressful. I was having myself a tough time all week there. Things got started on Saturday. Nico, 7 for 60. Not a good go. Immediately put Inaki as the favorite. Not ideal. Things were trending in the wrong direction there. And then we got going with the early games where I had a lot of players going. And it started slow. It did start to pick up a little bit. AJ Brown, 8 for 97 and 1 was good. Kyler eventually got there with 202 passing yards, 63 rushing, and a rushing touchdown for 21 points. Puka stalled out with 8 for 56. Fortunately, the biggest thing there was Bijan Robinson, 94 yards and 2 tutties. But Trey McBride, 3.5 points. So I was nervous. Things were not looking good. And then Inaki had a real slow start. Justin Jefferson was okay initially. Khalil Shakir was doing nothing. Josh Allen having a terrible day. Patriots were scoring points on the Bills' defense. Everything was going about as good as it could. And that was after, Connor put up 24 points but got hurt. So that saved me a little bit. Kyron put up 19. So it was like, oh man, I am in some trouble here. But slowly but surely, Inaki made his way back, caught the lead, got a ton of points from Jefferson, who went off for 10 for 144 and 2. Kittle worked his way there with 8 for 106. Aaron Jones over 100 yards, 10 points there. And then in the end, his Bills D came through because they got a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So he had set the bar. I needed 26 points from my kicker and defense, who both played against the Saints on Monday night. And at halftime, it wasn't looking particularly great. I had 3 extra points from my kicker. It was 21-0, so fortunately that was okay. My defense was good. And then in the second half, things started to fall into place. 50-yarder from McManus, and then a 40-yarder from McManus, and then interception from Green Bay, and then another sack, and an extra point on a tutty. And before you know it, 30 points between the kicker and defense leads the way for a 144-140 win. So it was a ride. I was happy, then I was sad, then I was stressed, then I was excited. It was just an absolute roller coaster of a matchup. And I mean, in the end, there were a few keys, right? So we talked about Kyler versus, Kyler being the piece that I was most worried about. And in the end, he actually outscored Josh Allen 21-12. So that was a 9 point gap. He got me back though with Kittle versus McBride. McBride had just brutal game. Couldn't understand why I weren't throwing him the ball. My wideouts, even though I had 3 and he had 2, he got 34 out of JJ and Shakir. I got 39 out of my 3-pack. Barely got ahead of him there. But fortunately, his 3-pack of Connor, Kyron, and Aaron Jones put up 54. And my man A-Chain with the long 50-yard tutty to end that game, he put up 28 and got me there with him and Bijan. So I outscored him with the defense and special teams, got the better of him pound for pound with the running backs and the quarterback, and managed to steal the victory there. So headed there for another finals. We'll preview that in a second, but what that means is that we got Cash and Anaki meeting for the 3rd time this year for the bronze medal matchup. So they're 1-1 in their head-to-head. We had a win for Anaki early in the year in week 3, 141-100. And then Cash got the better of them in week 12, just a few weeks ago there, 111-118. So 1-1 there. Average points per season, it was a little higher for Cash than Anaki, but any given week, as we just saw. So this one got started heavily yesterday because Cash had several players in there between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So he got a down day from Pickens for 6.5 points. He got a big day from Lamar, who had 168 and 2, plus he ran for 87 yards and a score. So almost 30 out of Lamar. And then Andrews, 2 for 68 and a tutty. He got in the end zone again. Had a big play there. And Tucker with 9 points. So he's already got almost 60 points. Naki hasn't had a single player play. So that part's going to be kind of interesting. They both have some Lions players on Monday night. So Gibbs versus Jameson Williams to finish up the week, as well as Bates for Anaki. So that may decide the matchup. And Cash has DK going tonight, so we'll get some more information there, which means that he's going to have 5 players out of his 9 already have played when this weekend gets going with the Saturday, Sunday games. So in terms of who has the edge where, I think it's pretty close at quarterback, but with a 30 spot from Lamar already on the board, you got to give the edge to him to Cash there because 30 is a lot. And Josh Allen, even though he's been on fire, he's back at home against the Jets, but weather could be a huge component in that one. Got a lot of rain that might be popping up this week. In terms of tight ends, so you go Kittle versus Andrews. That one's pretty close. Andrews with 13. That's probably about what Kittle will get. So I'd say that's about a tie. Running back wise, you got a trio for Cash with Kamara, Gibbs, just a duo with Kamara and Gibbs. So we'll see if Kamara's back active. Otherwise, he might have to go back to Jerome Ford. But got to go to Kyron, Jones, and Bucky Irving as the favorite for Anaki. And that's if James Conner doesn't come back and play, because she'd probably put Conner in there if he does. Wide receivers, though, so Adams, Pickens, and Metcalf versus JMO and JJ. Again, kind of got to go to Anaki here with the wideouts, JJ especially, but JMO's been on fire. DK's been okay. Pickens already flopped. Do like Adams, though, so that might make up some of the ground. And then special teams, Bates is good for, I'd say, at least 9 points. So I think he's got an advantage over Tucker. And Bills D versus the Jets offense looks like a much better matchup there. Although Philly, as we talked about, Jalen Hurts is banged up. So that might be a big factor. So overall, I think it's a bit of a toss-up. I think Inaki's got the better squad, but the fact that Lamar's already put so many points up and Andrews has had a good day does help keep this pretty close. I'll lean Inaki, but I wouldn't be surprised. And it's probably, like I said, going to come down to Gibbs versus JMO and Bates on Monday night, and that's going to be a fun one. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for, the trophy championship. So let's see who's bringing it home. The good news is it's staying on the island. Justin and I are both here. The better news is it could stay right here in this house and just become mine. And that's really the optimal outcome here. So even though Justin's been on fire, I have a 2-0 head-to-head record. So early in the year, I got lucky. He had Pacheco and Rusty Rice get hurt, so I beat him 110-100. And then we had that crazy matchup there in week 13 where my Broncos D went off against the Browns for 2 pick sixes. So 133-127 there. So we're both sitting at 11-5 now, coming in at 9-5 with 2 straight wins. Points per game was 120 for him, 119.5 for me, so almost dead even. In terms of our matchup, we both had a player play yesterday, and neither of us are going to be happy about that. Nico, 3 for 59, just a even worse outing. I really should have benched him, but I didn't have many other options at receiver. So 7.5 points there. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for him, 2 for 21 for Schultz meant that he didn't get much out of that either. So we both have had one player play and basically disappoint. So no real favor there. I got Mr. Charbonnet going tonight against Chicago. Kenneth Walker's been ruled out. Chicago's got a pretty crappy run defense. Might get some weather there too, and usually you want to run in the rain and throw in the snow. So get some rain, that might help me in that sense. And then we head into Saturday, and that's going to be a big one because he's got Jamar Chase and Chase Brown facing off against my Broncos. So I'll be rooting for them, for my Broncos to get that big upset there and lock down a playoff spot. And then I got in the later matchup, I got Kyler and McBride as the stack going up against Puka and the Rams. So I'm going to have 3 players there. So I'll have had 4 play and he'll have had 3 play. And I should have a big lead at that point if things are going well because I'll have the extra player. And then we get into sort of the early games on Sunday. So early on Sunday, I got just my kicker, and then he's got a 5-pack, 4 of which are the Eagles there. So he's got Barkley, he's got Calvin Ridley, he's got Devonta Smith, Elliott the kicker, and the Eagles D. Now, a lot of that's going to come down to what's going on with Jalen Hurts. So if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, you would assume it'd be Kenny Pickett, but he did have a rib injury, and they did sign Ian Book from their practice squad to their active roster. So, or to their practice squad. So we'll see. I think that's the wild card here is right now I got AJ Brown out. I might put him in, but I'm worried that it might be a backup or a backup to the backup quarterback, in which case, Dallas is no slouch. They've been playing pretty well. They just knocked off the Bucks. So that's going to be the decider this week. Ultimately, I think in our matchup, because you got 4 Eagles, is what's going on with Jalen Hurts and his health, and how does that play out? So that'll be most of all of his players pretty well done at that point, aside from the night matchup. In the late games, I'll have Achane, and right now I got the Dolphins D in, but I also have the Colts D, so we'll see what happens there. And then potentially to finish it off, I'll have Bijan Robinson versus Jaden Daniels at the night game. So I'll be hoping to have a huge lead at that point because Jaden Daniels is terrifying. He's been putting up crazy numbers. You go through the past, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4 games, and it's 32, 28, 23, 36. So if I'm not up by 40, then it's going to be super stressful. But hopefully I'm up even more than that. We can write this one off, but we'll see. So that'll probably be how it finishes up with Bijan versus Daniels. And hopefully that means a championship for me. Ultimately, I pick myself, but it's going to be close. Like I said, I think the deciding factor is going to be what happens with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see what happens. Good luck to Justin, but I hope you lose for a third straight time. Third time, we'll go for that three-peat this week. All right. Last thing to touch on is the Thursday night picks. So we got Seattle on the road against the Bears, but the Bears are garbage. They've lost 9 in a row. Seattle's trying to keep alive in the playoffs. They got a chance to win and then win against the Rams in the final week. So they have to keep winning. I think they keep winning. I think they run the ball a lot. And let's go Charbonnet. So that's my pick. That's where we're at. It's going to be an exciting week. Going to get, spaced out. We had a little bit yesterday. We got a little bit today, then Saturday, then Sunday and Sunday night. So, and Monday night for some of the matchups. So it's all going to be happening here. We got 5 days of football. It's craziness, but I love every minute of it. So good luck to everyone out there. Hope you all have a great New Year's and had a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. As always, until next time, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.